So if you were here last week, we talked about 3 reasons why creators don't finish projects that they start. Um, so I'm coming back following up with 3 reasons, or not necessarily 3 reasons, but 3 ways to finish what we started. Um, to overlook those reasons why we don't finish what we start, it was we choose, we don't decide, we lack clarity on our why, and we don't have a strategy. So when we think about finishing creative projects, we have to think about the inverse of those reasons. So reason number one, if you're creative and you have a project and you want to finish what you've started, you're tired of starting things and not finishing it, motivation waning, running out of energy, these 3 items will help you make sure that you stay on task, stay on course, and finish what you've started. So number one, the inverse, you have to decide to finish. You have to make a decision that you're going to finish what you said you were going to finish because it's your word. Your word means everything. It means everything to you, and it means everything to the person that needs to experience that project. So again, it's a mindset. You have to set your mind on the decision is being made and you're not relinquishing it. You relinquish the option to quit. You don't relinquish the option that you've decided. Your decision has been etched into your belief system. It's etched into your being. It's etched into who you are as a creative. It's not just this project that's important. It's every project that precedes this particular project. Because once you have embodied the belief that you will complete what you've decided, it follows through not just for this project, but for every project that follows. But we have to understand that deciding comes with its challenges. It comes with hangups. It comes with sometimes our humanity getting in the way of us finishing what we said we wanted to start. So again, you want to be accountable to your word. One practical thing that I've done is I've created an accountability group with other creatives that I share my creative works with. So for example, as a hip hop artist and producer, if I'm working on an album, one of my partners, I share with him exactly what I'm working on and the reason why I'm working on it. Because now I've allowed someone else into the world of what I'm doing, and that person has the permission and has the authority to check up on me and say, hey, what's going on with that project? How many songs have you created? Anything in reference to that project, I give them full reign on being able to question and ask me about that project. And it also keeps me motivated to share the work and vice versa. I get to update them on what I'm working on. I get to show them the progress that I've made. I get to talk about the songs as they've been created and just get feedback and then allow them into the process. So it gives me the motivation to keep going, and it gives me the accountability to keep completing said project. Number two, you have to define the vision and why. Your vision fuels your persistence. When you can see the end result clearly, it becomes easy to take consistent action. One thing that you want to do is for your project is you want to create a project statement. This is a brief statement outlining the purpose and the intention of the project and your intended impact for who you serve. You want to revisit this statement during specific milestones of the project. So for example, if you're creating a new clothing collection for the spring summer and you create a project statement about that particular clothing line, you want to make sure that you go back to it and understand that once you see the end result, how many particular items are you going to create? What is the purpose for creating the actual clothing line? Who the clothing line is for? What industry is the clothing line in? That again is another form of accountability for that particular project. Because if you can have something you can go back into and to recalculate and re-see the vision of what you said you were going to create, it just continues to add to that fuel and to that motivation for you completing that project. Um, One thing and one example of this on a personal level is when I created my second tour, when I toured 25 cities for an album that I released called Quesbar. I started with the end result of that tour. I started with 25 cities. I ended with 25 cities. I've ended with what cities those shows would be in. I also ended with the particular venues that I would perform at, the curating partners I would work with in order to complete that tour. I had in my mind how it would look with me completing that tour, going to those 25 cities and performing those songs. Because once you can start with the end result and how it would look, you need to do some reverse engineering and work backwards. So that allows you to healthily devise a timeline. It helps you become very intentional about who you need to speak to, who you need to work with, where you need to go. Even if you don't have those aspects figured out, having that understanding of the end result allows you to create a vision and have a why and a reason for the project and creating it, and to see it through and to see it into completion. And then the third step, you have to create a strategy with systems. What does that mean? A system of basically of habits and routines that make execution easier and more consistent. It's a strategy that ensures your systems align with your goals. So, number one, in order to make sure that you can create a project, the first thing you have to make sure is that you don't experience project overload. I'm a creative. Trust me. It's not just one project that I'm working on. I'm working on multiple projects. And that's okay. You can work on more than one thing at a time. But the thing is, it has to be done in a systematic and a prioritized way. You want to limit project overload. You want to work in quarters. What does that mean? There's 12 months in the year, and there's 4 quarters in the year. Whatever quarter you're in, those are the projects that you work on. Now, you may have projects that you want to work on in quarter 2, 3, and 4, but if you're in quarter 1, you want to focus on those specific projects in that quarter. That way that you don't find yourself mentally overloaded thinking about everything in its totality, and you can focus on what needs to be done now. Because you want to define what's important at this time, and then you want to put away all other projects that's not presently important. It doesn't mean that the projects aren't important, they're just not important right now. Because if you experience project overload, it also can create a sense of being overwhelmed, and you will definitely experience some form of fatigue in the energy of completing said project that you're working on now that's important, that can impact not only the project now, but projects in the future. And then you want to break down the projects into task form and due dates. You want to define the priority of the project. You want to define the frequency in which you'll work on the project. And then you want to have a definitive end of life. Because when you're working on a creative project, again, when you're starting with the end result, you want to know within your own mind and within the collaborators that you work with on said project, you want them to be aware, when is this expected to end? Understand that life happens, things come up, everything doesn't happen exactly the way it's supposed to. But if you don't have some form of end of life, if you don't have some form of frequency in which you'll work on a project, and if you don't know which project is priority now, then you'll have no understanding of when it will end, how it will look, how to measure it, how to even understand if you've reached the end result of that project. And then you want to make sure you develop a clear and realistic work schedule to be able to work on the project. When will you work on the project task? How often and how long will you work on the project task? And then you want to complete the deep work within said project. And then you want to do that first. But if there's anything that you can do in less than 10 minutes, you want to do that as well immediately. So just to clarify, If you understand that, if you're working on an album, in studio sessions, I would consider as deep work, which is producing the record, writing the song, recording the song. Those are the things that come first. But say, for an example, if you have to email a client or an artist, or you have to email someone that's tied to that project, is very important, that you can do in less than 10 minutes. You want to take care of that now. You don't need to task that out. You don't need to put it into your deep work format. You want to get rid of that now, because that's something you can do immediately that won't take a lot of energy and take a lot of time away from you. Because again, it's about getting to the deep work and creating space and creating energy so you can do the work that matters the most, so you don't find yourself overwhelmed and worn out from that particular deep work. And then also, you want to make sure that you want to block your calendar to reflect the work schedule. Because again, you need parameters, you need structure. You need to have this set in a work schedule so you can understand when and how you'll be able to complete said task in the project. And then again, we're human beings. We can't work day and night nonstop. You have to think about it in its most realistic form as possible. You got to take breaks. You have to know when those break times are. You have to take a lunch break. You got to eat. You can't record all day. You can't work on the fashion line all day. You can't work on curating the exhibit all day. You have to take breaks. You got to refuel. You got to be re-energized. And then also, you want to make sure that you work in specific sprints or intervals. You don't want to work 3-4 hours straight, because at some point your human capacity can only take so much. You'll get worn out. You'll start wearing down. So even if you know that you're going to be doing a specific amount of deep work for a few hours, work on the project for 30 minutes. Take a break. Get up. Walk around. Go outside. Get some air. Make a phone call. Scroll social media. Do something to break the monotony of that deep work. Because once you sit back down, or whether you're recording a song, or whether you're back filming, or whether you're back working on the clothing line or curating the event, you want to focus. And then you want to make sure that that focus time is uninterrupted, and you've already took care of the basic tasks or the basic things in between the time that you've been doing the deep work. And then you want to make sure that you review your progress. I like to review my progress weekly. I like to get to the end of the week and I look at everything that I've set out to do for that week, and I look and say, did I complete what I set out to do? And what I didn't do, I evaluate the reasons why that didn't get done. Because once I go into my next week, I want to make sure that it's something that I can reposition myself to make sure I get the work done. Or if I need to scale back, if I'm doing too much, or if I'm in, for example, project overload, I can manage that and say, okay, I can put parameters around when and how that would get done in a more effective way. But I don't know that if I don't review. I don't know how impactful or effective my deep work has been in creating the project if I don't take the time to review my progress for that particular week. And then as you create a strategy with a system, you want to use an organized project management tool to put these tasks and deadlines in order for you. My favorite project management tool is Asana. You can use whatever is best for you. You don't have to use a computerized tool. If you want to write that down in a notebook, or if you want to utilize any other form or method to keep track of your tasks, that's up to you. But the key to this is to make sure that the project management tool or the organized tool is in one centralized location. You don't want to have a bunch of tasks in various amounts of locations. You don't want it in your notes. You don't want it in your email. You don't want it in a text message. You don't want it on a Google Doc. You don't want it in a DM. You don't want all of these specific tasks spread out in all of these different areas. You want to have one centralized area to where is that you know very clearly the task and what needs to be completed in an organized fashion and what day it needs to be done. You need to have that in one specific area, because if you don't, something will get lost, something will be missed, and it will show up in the quality of the project. I can guarantee it. So again, just a few takeaways to be able to make sure that you finish what you started. You want to, again, make a firm decision to finish. That's the first step, and it's the most compelling step to creating any creative project. You need to understand and clarify your why, because that keeps you motivated, anchored, and focused, even when challenges come up, or either when motivation wanes, or either when sometimes you lose track of why this is important to begin with. And then you want to have a solid strategy with the supporting systems to turn these very vague and lofty goals into something that's achievable and something that is tangible and something that you can measure. So one thing I want you to do is I want you to sit back. I want you to look for that one project that you wanted to complete. I want you to pick that project back up if you feel compelled to. And I want you to go back to it. And I want you to ask yourself, am I going to decide to finish this? And if you made that decision, I want you to follow these steps, and I want you to follow them through thoroughly. And I want you to check in with me and check back and let me know your progress and let me know how far you've gotten. Let me know when it's completed. That's what it's about. It's about getting our creative works in the world. So number one, they can help the people that it's meant to help. And number two, we can advance society. We can advance ourselves in a creative way, because the creative aspects of who we are is important. It needs to be shared. It needs to be heard. And people need it. We need it to thrive. So again, I'm Neek, and this video is for 3 ways to make sure that you finish what you started. I'm out. Be blessed. Peace.